In this lesson, we're going to be talking about intrusion detection. Now, intrusion detection is actually a very useful tool for you to have as you're going through a forensic examination, particularly if you're talking about some sort of attack against the system, or maybe you're talking about malware or something along those lines. Intrusion detection can really be your friend in those circumstances. You're not always going to be investigating cases where somebody's been looking at child pornography, for example. Sometimes you're going to be asked to investigate an attack over the network, or maybe a local attack that does something specific, and you need to be able to have things like intrusion detection running that will log behaviors either on the system or on the network, so that it can actually give you some pointers or some evidence later on as to what was actually going on. So I've got a Linux system here, and I'm actually running a utility called Snort. And Snort is a network intrusion detection system for Unix-like operating systems. And I'm going to jump into the rules here. Now, you can see there's a lot of different rules, and I'll just take a quick look at one of them here. Let's take a look at DDoS rules, for example. And DDoS is a distributed denial of service attack. And we've talked about denial of service attacks or network attacks in other lessons. A distributed denial of service attack is just where the denial of service is coming from multiple locations simultaneously, therefore it's distributed. So you can see here the rules for Snort, and you can see it says alert on an ICMP coming in from an external network, from any external network to anywhere on the home network. And what we're looking for is a TFN probe, or Tribe Flood Network probe. So we're looking for an ICMP type of 8, and we're looking for content that says 1, 2, 3, 4. So some of these rules get pretty dense and difficult to follow, although they are written mostly in English. And if you understand networking and the different types of attacks and network protocols, you should be able to read these reasonably well. Like down below, you can see that we're alerting on TCP, and we're also doing some alerts on UDP. So these are just some of the rules that get stored in Snort, which again is this intrusion detection system. Now this is just one file, and I could configure Snort to load up any number of these different rules files. So for example, web attacks or virus, or Telnet or SQL or SNMP, or different types of mail attacks. So there's a lot of different rule sets here for different types of attacks. Now, let's talk about how we actually go about taking a look at these attacks. So I'm going to log into the management console here and take a look at this thing called the Basic Analysis and Security Engine, or BASE. And what it does is it's a web interface that goes and reads the Snort database for different violations. And you can see here's a listing for today's alerts, and let's just see what we have for alerts. So we have a bad traffic with the same source and destination. And there's also an ICMP destination unreachable, port unreachable. So these are not necessarily anything to worry about. We could actually bring this up and have it tell us what the problem specifically is, and we could get more detailed information. You can see the summary here is this event is generated with an ICMP port unreachable message was detected. And then there's the detailed information and also attack scenarios, as well as false positive information, and it tells you how to actually fix the situation that may have actually caused this problem. And we can go back and take a look at some others. So let's look at the last 72 hours alerts, and it looks like the same set of alerts that are there. And we could take a look at most frequent source ports of any protocol, and you can see there's a list of source ports that have been noted by this particular intrusion detection system. So there's a lot of information that intrusion detection systems can store, and it may be one of these things where if you're working somewhere and you're kind of a dedicated forensic investigator for a particular organization, you may want to lobby for some sort of intrusion detection system if it doesn't already exist, just simply in the case where you may be asked to come in and investigate a situation. At least you'll have a place to go looking for data. Now, this is a network intrusion detection system, and there are, of course, also host-based intrusion detection systems, and they'll work on slightly different pieces of information. So a host-based intrusion detection system may look at whether different files on a system have changed. So system executables or system configuration files, if those have changed, it may actually alert on those because it may indicate that there's something going on the system that you should be aware of or concerned about. So that would be a host-based intrusion detection system. And of course, Snort is a free or open source intrusion detection system, but there's a lot of other commercially available intrusion detection systems, and they all work a little bit differently and have different interfaces, but the idea is really the same, where you're looking for problems on the network and you'll have an interface so that you can do things like look up alerts and find information about what's going on the network. So that's just some of the basics of using an intrusion detection system.